Hello, everybody, and welcome to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm your host, Josh Carr, and with me today is the unbelievably talented Peter Miles AKA Dalekium. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. We're having recording issues as I always do on this podcast, because I'm trying to create some kind of a professional operation here, but technology does not want that to happen. But anyway, so in this podcast, as you may know already, if this is your first time listening, welcome. Please stick around, because it gets better than this. We talk to various guests from in and around the Doctor Who community about the amazing things that they do and this amazing programme that is Doctor Who. So I always like to start at the beginning, as you should do. So Peter, where did Doctor Who and your love for Doctor Who begin?
Well, I've been very, very lucky because I was born mid-90s. I'm 25, which is obviously right slap bang in the middle of the wilderness years.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents were big Doctor Who fans, so they had several of the old stories on VHS, and I just grew up with a good smattering of the stories. So it's always been there. It's always interested me, and when the show was coming back in 2005, it was just really exciting because I knew what it was. I didn't think it was something that would ever be back, and well, there it was, and here we are now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, here we are now. 15 years on. I can't believe it's 15 years since Doctor Who came back.
That's weird.
That's mental. So yeah, it's interesting because you're a similar age to me, and I think you're a couple of years older than me. But most people my age, and a few people that we've had on already, like Tom and George, their first experiences with Who were New Who. So it's quite interesting that you had classic Who first, before then being introduced to this new version of Doctor Who when you were already established with the old guard, as it were. So what was that like? Do you think it changed your experiences of New Who at all, or?
Well, it's just like I said before. When I knew it was coming back, it was just beyond exciting.
Yeah.
And it's only really recently I sort of like beginning to become aware of just how like actually absent it was for some people, because for me it was just always this constant thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really understand at the time, I think, that people didn't really know what Doctor Who was. They might have known about like the Daleks or the basic idea of the TARDIS, but otherwise no. So
yeah.
But then when that first episode came around with Rose, I remember, because I was at my grandparents', and they'd recorded it on tape, and when we started playing back, it was a couple of minutes into the episode, and it was the bit like right at the beginning where Rose is going about her life, and it's the cutscenes over London.
Yeah.
You get all that footage, and we're like, "Is this Doctor Who? This isn't Doctor Who."
Yeah,
is it?
I bet like on first viewing it doesn't seem very Doctor Who-y, because I actually like when I first watched Rose, I missed the first few minutes. So my first viewing was Rose, the Auton, like is just walking towards her. So it's just before Chris comes in and says run. So yeah, but obviously it was a bit more evident to me because I had an alien on the screen that it was Doctor Who. But yeah, it's hard to gauge whether it is, because it is. I bet it seemed very different to what you were used to with Who.
Yeah, but then like by the time that Chris was on the screen, it was, yeah, this is Doctor Who. Like, that's the Doctor. There's the companion. There's the TARDIS. Like, what more do you need, really? It was Doctor Who, and it has continued to be Doctor Who even through all the changes it's been through, because those are the core elements. That's what you really need.
Yeah, exactly. So what classic Who stories, like what ones do you remember being brought up on?
Yeah, so we had, and I remember watching these very religiously. It was the Deaths of the Daleks with John Pertwee and Liz Sladen. Terror of the Zygons.
It's a great
Tom
story.
Baker,
Really good
Liz
story.
and Neomata. I love that story so much. The Five Doctors, which is a great story for having multiple doctors to in the repertoire, as
definitely.
it were. And Resurrection of the Daleks, Pete Davison, and the TV movie, because that came out when I was alive, so we recorded it, and that was there.
Yeah, I've not seen the TV movie for ages, probably since I was pretty young. I don't think I've seen it for like 7 or 8 years, but I really need to watch it again. I remember loving it, and I remember it being a bit naff and American, but still loving it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I watched it, but I remember thinking, I think it must be about 5 or 6 years ago now, and I remember thinking actually just how much like modern Who it actually is in some ways.
Yeah.
I think Paul McGann's Doctor is very, you can see a lot of him in what we have now. It's one of my favourite lines is, he shouts out like, "These shoes," and Grace is like, "What's wrong with the shoes?" And he's like, "They fit, they're perfect."
Yeah,
and
I
then he
love
runs
that
off
bit.
and he's doing that little skippy thing. Like, that's such a, you might not necessarily have had it with what came before, but it's very much, you can tell that it sits between the two like blocks of the eras, the classic and what we have
definitely.
now.
Yeah, it is really the first, because you get the post regeneration issues like in New Who, and weirdness, but it's the first time that they sort of go a bit mad and a bit kooky with it, in the TV movie. But yeah, I really need to rewatch that, definitely. So coming on to what you do now, so of course you've got a YouTube channel, Dalekium, and would you describe yourself as a composer? I'd describe you as a composer, because you compose a lot. So
Yeah, I guess so. Like, definitely more so recently than necessarily in the past. Just because literally everything I was doing was based around the Doctor Who theme. But yeah, much more recently, trying to expand and do more original things, and because it's always something I wanted to do and I never really felt like I had the opportunity to. And then obviously with everything that's going on at the minute, I had a lot more spare time on my hands. So it really did give me the opportunity, and so it's really fun, and I just hope I can do some more and go somewhere. I don't know, but
I'm sure it definitely will. So I mean, going back to the start with that, so have you always been musical? Was it something that started when you were a kid, or is this relatively new? Because I know you've had the YouTube channel for quite some time now.
Yeah, no, I started musically really quite young, because my grandparents both play guitar, and they, like, particularly my granddad, there's this one very silly song that he used to play and sing to me and my brother, about a sparrow. He flies all the way to Spain, and then on the way back gets his feathers plucked out by an eagle or something really
strange.
silly. But yeah, the guitar is my main instrument. That's what I learned. I had lessons. I did all the grades, and stuff. And then around GCSE time, I'd say 13, 14 years old, I started teaching myself like piano, keyboard type of stuff, and I can do that to an extent. And And then in sixth form, I got into singing because my sixth form had a barbershop quartet
really?
group. But yeah, of
you were
like
in a
20 people
barbershop
though.
quartet?
Yeah,
Wow.
there
I
must be
like that.
videos somewhere out there. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really want to know. My hair was awful.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Do you think we'll ever see a barbershop quartet Doctor Who theme on the Dalekium channel? And there is a correct answer to this. It must be yes.
Well, then yes, it's gonna happen.
It's gotta happen.
It's happening, man. It's gonna happen.
It's gotta happen at some point. Yeah, a Doctor Who barbershop quartet would be interesting. So, with the obviously you started off really with the whole recreating Doctor Who themes and making your own versions of the Doctor Who theme. So when did that start? When did the Doctor Who and the music sort of cross streams, if you will?
Again, that was really, really quite an early thing because I think it was about 8 or 9, and my dad had come across this website called whoknewdwpod.net, and on that website was I think it's fairly self-explanatory in a way. Is just people were doing their own mixes of the Doctor Who theme.
Yeah.
And that flicked a switch, and I thought I want to be doing something like that. And it took a while for me to be able to do that, but I did eventually. And then the YouTube channel came about because around 2012, 2013 time, Danny Stewart, who helped run it, I don't think he was just able to maintain it like he had before, like keeping everyone's tracks uploaded. So I thought, well, I don't want to stop, so I'll just host it somewhere else for the time being, and that was YouTube, because I couldn't really think of anywhere else, even though it was a bit of a wonky format, because obviously YouTube's more of a video thing than pure audio. So that's how that started really, and then it's just never gone away. And really recently, like particularly in the last year or so, it's really kicked off in a way. Yeah, which has really surprised me, but it's nice.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be surprising, because if anyone hasn't listened to your various, first of all, your various Doctor Who themes are amazing. A personal highlight being the Kylie remix, which is absolutely wonderful. Is it called Doctor Disco? Is that what it's down as on YouTube?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love that. I love that remix. But yeah, you should definitely go and listen to them. But then, as you said, the last year you started getting involved in a lot more. It seems from looking at your YouTube channel, like a lot more fan projects, like fan audios, like doing titles for them, and obviously you've been working very closely with George Ace Creeper, which we'll talk a bit more about later. But what's it been like working? Not obviously the Who theme tunes, I imagine, started like you said, as a hobby for fun, but now this is more like you're tailoring your musical talents towards people, and you're having to create things that they're asking for. What's that like, and how does it vary with freedom from project to project in terms of what you can create?
It's really interesting because obviously when you're doing something for yourself, you know what you want to do and you do it, and it's great because it's what you want to do. Having to take someone else's thoughts and develop that and produce something and say, is this what you're going for, is a really interesting experience, and the freedom is really varied as well. So like some people are just like, yeah, the theme tune kind of sound a bit like this, go for it. Or they want something a bit more specific, they're after a particular tone or a vibe, or they want particular features included, usually from like theme tunes past. But yeah, it's really interesting, and like I was just looking at my phone to see how many videos I have on YouTube in the Who Mix playlist. It's 81.
Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah, a few of those I think must be like just some of the little soundtracky, trailery type ones. But yeah, 81. I didn't know. 81 versions of the theme tune from my head is really weird to me.
It's incredible. Like, and the variation between them is astounding as well. Like, you'd think that same theme would start to sound the same after a while, but every single time you somehow do something that makes each one completely stand out from the other, which is great. I love listening to them, and there's always these little quirks with them, which I feel like is the case with the actual show themes as well, and all of the different themes that we've had that just make like people's like personalities and their own spin on things like bleed into it. But you really get that with yours, definitely.
I think it's just because the theme tune is like, as just a composition, just the notes and whatever. It's actually quite basic. There's not really much going on. You've got the melody and the bass doing its dum-de-dums. That's really it, which gives you so much scope to play around with and fiddle with, which obviously we have seen with the official theme tunes from Delia's original to Peter Howell and Kev McCulloch's rather delightfully 80s theme tune, all the way to Murray's and back to Sagan's current version, which obviously uses as its source Delia's original, but it sounds completely fresh.
Yeah.
And different in its own way.
Mm-hmm. It's great to have, because obviously the defining feature of Doctor Who, you could argue, is its ability to be refreshed and be renewed and regenerated, with the same core concept. And it's exactly the same for the theme tune. Like that theme tune can it regenerates itself, and it's a testament to Ron Grainer and Delia Derbyshire that it can be so easily regenerated, because it's so original and unique. Like, just those notes played on any instrument, on anywhere, with any kind of format, it's recognisable instantly. But it's just the best theme tune, isn't it? It's just the best.
It's so, it is just so versatile, and I think because it is as you said, it's a show that it depends on having to change, and theme tunes in general are so important for setting like the tone of the whole show itself. It's absolutely, the theme tunes are reflections of what the show is, but also the times in which they were made, because particular recording practices, compositional practices, and Doctor Who is its peak 60s. What they were doing, it was like at the cutting edge of what they were doing back in the 60s. But like what Delia did is just astonishing, because you just can't hear anything quite like it now. It's so unique in its tone, and the things that she did is just really quite astonishing, particularly for the time, because you can do a theme tune, which is the way I do, which is pretty much on my laptop. They didn't have that. And like the stories of tapes running up and down the BBC corridors, trying to stitch it all together, is mad. But look at how it's endured. It's amazing.
It is absolutely astonishing, and like you say, like the fact that everything that they did can now be done on a laptop, but it's almost the fact that that this was made on a shoestring budget, and it's all of these mad experimental ideas that went into making this mad experimental theme tune. It just makes it. It's what I love. That original always just gets me a bit. I don't know why. Just gets me a bit. It's so creepy and eerie, but get a proper really nostalgic, despite the fact that I didn't watch classic Who. It just feels like the OG. It's the OG.
Yeah, it is. And obviously after, nearly 60 years now, it is just, particularly the original, it's just so evocative because I always get this when I watch Day of the Doctor, because it uses the original theme tune right at the beginning with the original titles, and it does just send a little chill of, this is how they did it then, but there's so much history that rides on it, but in like an inverse way, because obviously it's the original one. So it's something. It's really something. I can't think of anything else quite like it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So we're going to take a very short break there, and when we come back, Peter is going to join me over at the shelf, and we're going to see what he wants to submit to the DVD collection. Hello, welcome back to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I'm still here with Peter Miles AKA Dalekium, and we've taken a little slide on over to the shelf, the DVD shelf, to see what story Peter would like to submit to the DVD collection.
By the power of Grayskull.
The Unicorn and the Wasp, or Love and Monsters.
Which one do you think I'll prefer?
No, I mean, which one do you want to watch first?
You are pulling my leg.
The DVD collection, if you don't know, is a collection of stories submitted by my guests, which, not necessarily the greatest Doctor Who episodes, but just the term that keeps coming up is quintessential Who. So yeah, I always love hearing what people submit, and I don't know what Peter has chosen. I try not to find out beforehand, so it's a shock to me as well. But Peter, the floor is yours. Make your case. Make your case.
It might not be the biggest shock, because it is one that I have already mentioned previously, and it is Terror of the Zygons.
Yeah.
Because it's just... And I feel like you're probably going to get this a lot with the channel, but, you're going to get that person saying, this is what Doctor Who is, like, to me, or just, it's, quintessential. It's quintessential Doctor Who, because it's just a banging story. Like, it's, it's got your sci-fi, you've got your aliens, but it's got that horror element. It blends the sci-fi and the horror that is so well done with Doctor Who. In one of its strongest forms with the Zygons, because the creepy little buggers, and the shape-shifting as well.
Yeah.
The story, the setting, the Scarson is just... Yeah, it sticks in my mind. It's what I always think of.
Yeah.
When I'm thinking, what is just absolutely couldn't be anything else but Doctor Who, and it's that.
It's a really, really good story, isn't it? It's like there's. Let's talk about the Zygons first of all, because the fact that they're such an iconic Doctor Who monster, and up until a few years ago, this was their only story. Up until the 50th, this was their only story. Am I right? Is that there isn't another Zygon story? Is there?
Yeah, on TV, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was the only one, and yet it's one of those. It's just one of those aliens that has stuck in people's minds. Because I think that wider literature, there's a lot of stories being written, in books, whether professionally or by the fans. I think Big Finish have done a Zygon story or two. But yeah, we didn't get them back until the 50th anniversary practically because David Tennant, I think, said, yeah, I'll come back, but I want to be up against Zygons, because he loved them that much.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true, but I feel like I've read that somewhere, and that's basically how they got him back.
Yeah, I'd love it if that was true. But yeah, I can also see Moffat as a fanboy being like, because the 50th was always going to be a tough one in terms of who you bring back, because you can bring the Daleks and the Cybermen back, but at this point we have seen them quite a lot in New Who, so it wouldn't feel like it's too different. Like we've seen, like, Journey's End is like the pinnacle of the Daleks, and then they've sort of been on a downward turn since then. So picking the Zygons is a bit of a brave move to bring back a new villain for the biggest episode in the show's history. But yeah, I really like it, and it just goes to show how good they are just from this story. So back onto Terror. I mean, again, it's just it just feels like the stars have just aligned. It's a great TARDIS team. It's slap bang in the middle of the golden era of Doctor Who.
Yeah, and like also it's got Unit, it's got the Brigadier.
Yeah, the Brig's in
to
it.
contend with. Is Benton in it? I can't actually remember.
Yes, I think Benton is in it.
Yeah, let's run with that he is in it. So yeah, there's another one. A great character who I'm pretending is in it, even if he's not.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain he is. I don't think Yates is in it, but I think Benton definitely is. I'm almost certain that he is.
Yeah, and it's chilling. Like, I still, again, it's one of those early memories that I have of the show, because having had it on VHS to watch when I was growing up. Is the deer head on the wall as the spy camera.
Yeah.
Those eyes. Oh my god, they're creepy, so creepy. Just like watching around, and then because I always thought, I think nowadays I think it's a bit funny because the physical prop of the eyes do change between shots. When it's just there on the wall, it looks perfectly reasonable, and then when it has to be spy cameras, it's like.
Oh, does it really? Does it really? Oh, I think
so. Yeah.
I need to rewatch this episode, because I've only watched it for the first time this year, but yeah, it's so fun, and I love Doctor Who in Scotland. It's just always great when Who goes to Scotland, and Tom's on form, Brig's on form, Sarah's on form, and it's Harry's last story, isn't it? I think he comes back in Android Invasion, but it's his last story as a companion.
Yeah, as a companion, yeah. So it's got a slightly bittersweet ending, because he's like, okay, I think I want to go home now.
Yeah.
And which he does. But what a story to have as your last one.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame about Harry, because I really like Harry Sullivan as a character, but he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, really, in terms of his being in the show, because obviously he was designed, he was cast and with the idea that they were going to get an older Doctor, and then they ended up getting Tom in, so that those two characters didn't really gel together, because he was going to be like the Ian, the action man to an older Hartnell style Doctor.
I didn't actually know that.
Oh, did you not?
That's
no.
quite interesting.
Yeah,
because I do think he does stick out like a sore thumb at points, because he's just like, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I can be a doctor. Yes, I can do that. But I do love the dynamic that they have together, because Harry's so out of his depth, and it lets Sarah really shine as
it really does,
as the guiding light, while Tom Baker's Doctor is off faffing about doing something else. So it's a lovely, Sarah gets her own companion in a way, but even Harry and the Doctor, because the Doctor, he's clearly having him on, knowing how out of depth he is, and is absolutely loving it, and Harry hates it, but he is having a degree of fun, I think, as well. But he does decide at the end, oh, that was a nice little trip, but I think I'm done now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, bless Harry Sullivan. I like him, but yeah, he was literally there just to make the other two look good, really, wasn't he? That's his main purpose. Is just
I guess so.
make them look better. But I mean, inadvertently, like I said, he was meant to be the action hero, but then Tom came about, and Tom
but
sort of demands.
I kind of love that he is he is a bit fluffy about it. He's trying to be the hero, and it just goes wrong.
Yeah.
And Sarah and the Doctor are the ones having to get him out of situations.
Yeah, he's a fun, calamitous fool, really, isn't he? I do like him a lot. But that is a wonderful submission to the shelf. It joins some very good other stories. We've had a couple of big ones in a row there, because we started off with a few obscure ones. We had Thin Ice, and then the God Complex, and the Rescue, which you wouldn't necessarily have put straight on the shelf. But yeah, Bad Wolf and Partner of the Ways, and now Terror of the Zygons. Big episodes going on the shelf, and I am here for it. So what we are going to do now is take a little look at that wretched website that is twitter.com.
Oh God!
Because we have some Twitter questions, and we have a lot of Twitter questions.
The questions.
By the way, we have a lot. We've got like 10 questions, and I've allowed quite a lot of time, so we can spend some time on these. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I saw some of the questions, and I was like, I really need to think about this. I need to give a good answer.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you've had a little bit of pre-warning, but our wonderful lazy jingle is about to take it away from David Tennant. This is Bloody Twitter.
For God's sake! Bloody Twitter!
So, Twitter, you have submitted your questions. Are you alright? You seem a bit nervous about this.
Oh, it's just more, I absolutely sympathise with Stephen Moffat's feelings about Twitter. Because I love everyone on Twitter that I talk to, but Twitter in general as a concept is a hell site, and I wish I could leave, but I'm just addicted to it.
Oh no,
so
me too.
I'm around for the long run.
Yeah, it really is a horrid place sometimes. But all of these questions are nice, relatively nice. Not really, they are nice. So question number 1 is from a regular here in the bloody Twitter section. It's at Jamie_season7, famous Pertwee addict, has asked, which TARDIS team has your favourite Doctor and companion dynamic?
Oh, yeah, so this was one of those ones I had to think about because there's so many that I like. And I've mentioned, obviously, Tom Baker with Sarah and Harry. I do like what goes on there. But I think it probably has to be Peter Capaldi with Bill Potts, Paul Mackey.
Really? I like that.
Yeah. Season 10 has a little soft spot with me. I'm not entirely sure why, because I know it's not rated by everyone, but I think for what was almost meant to, like, accidentally not meant to be Stephen Moffat's last season. He actually wanted to leave a season before, I think, but Chris Chibnall was like, I've got Broadchurch season 3 to do, could you put it off for a bit? But for me, it's a really solid season, and I just adore Bill. Like, Paul Mackey brings something so very organic that I think it just complements Peter Capaldi's Doctor so well.
Yeah, definitely.
And their relationship is fairly fairly new within the context of the show, because I watched the pilot quite recently, and I didn't actually realise they get through about 6 months together before she even takes the first trip in the TARDIS.
Yeah,
which is really novel, I think, because she
really
doesn't even
like
know
that.
he's an alien. He's just her slightly weird personal tutor, but the basis of their relationship is there.
Yeah.
And then it develops from when, the story progresses.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool way of doing it. And that chemistry between Capaldi and Mackie is just, it's just on fire. They're just great together. Where do you stand on Nardole? This is a question from me. Where do you stand on Nardole? Because he gets a bit of a mixed opinions from people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad because for not mentioning him as part of the companion dynamic, but he's actually quite important, because again, he's not your typical companion. He's there, pretty much as the Doctor's watcher in a way, to make sure he's behaving himself. And for what was meant to be, just a comedic role to begin with, he's quite serious. And there are some really, really quite good scenes, I feel, between him and the Doctor, trying to get him to, to moderate himself, to focus on what actually matters.
Yeah. And
so when Bill comes on the scene, it's very interesting because they know the Doctor in very different ways, and the way that plays off each other, like the three of them, I think really does add a level to it. So I do sort of understand why Nardole is a bit iffy for some people. I do think some of the bits intended to be humorous are not necessarily humorous.
Yeah. It's a bit of a recurring theme with
severe.
Moffat, isn't it, really? Moffat's humour can be a bit hit and miss for some people. But yeah, no, I do like that TARDIS team. It's one that I feel it's a bit underrated, a little bit underrated in my opinion. Those three together, I really like them. Next question, of course, another regular. That old dog, Thomas Vance, has sent in a question that our guest number one, my day oneer, at Vance_43. He's actually sent in two questions. I'm going to ask you he's a greedy boy. I'm going to ask you the second one first.
Okay.
He's asked, if you're feeling frisky, which colour apple is better, green or red?
Which colour apple? See, I have a slight confession here. To paraphrase a doctor, I hate apples. Well, I don't hate apples, but they're not my favourite fruit, so I don't particularly care what colour they are.
There you go.
I like them in a crumble.
Just get Tom. I don't care. I
that's a really
care less.
Solid, engaging answer, that one, isn't it?
Yeah. Which colour apple is better, green or red? And your answer is crumble. Which is the correct answer. Yeah. Essentially burnt until rotting.
I guess I could say that. I think the colour red is very appealing. On a fruit. So let's go with red. Yeah, okay. Red apples.
And he's actually asked a good question. His form with questions is up and down. His previous two questions have been, he asked George to rank the Morbius Doctors in order of sexiness, and he then asked the wonderful Mr. TARDIS to discuss what porn that Jeff was watching in the 11th hour. We discuss it at length. I recorded it earlier today, For anyone who hasn't listened to last week's episode, go and check that out because it's
wow.
it's frisky, to paraphrase Tom. Anyway, his question is: if you could rescore any Doctor Who episode, which one would you pick and why?
I don't know. This is one of those ones that I needed to think about, and I don't think I actually gave it enough time because, well, it slipped my mind. Sorry, Tom. I'm not doing well with your questions at the minute. I don't know, because I feel like maybe either it's just me being a little bit weird, or it's a shared thing with more musicy people, but I don't like the idea of putting my own spin on what someone else has like done, not like literally, not like, you know, like with the theme tune, you know, using the same notes but changing it, but sort of that as well. It's very, you know, when you get those videos of and it has been a thing ever since Sagan took over, it's like this scene but with Murray's music. They're very good, they're very well made, I can see what they're going for, but it's too ingrained in my head, the particular cues that Murray wrote those things for.
So it's hard for you to picture anything else than those, and obviously out of respect as well. Like.
Yeah, and as I'm watching it happening, it's just like, I understand what's going on here, but it's it's an odd one. So it's not that I haven't ever thought about, you know, how would I have like approached this scene, but it's not. It's usually little things. It's not. It's not something I personally think about that much. Like I'm happy with what I'm given for the most part. Rescore.
That's the thing. It's hard. It's hard for you when, like, you've openly said, like, obviously you are massively inspired by these people, so it would. I agree. It would be a bit strange.
And I know
it's essentially
how I
like
would feel
saying
if I saw someone swapping out my stuff with something else, particularly if they didn't like it. I am, you know, I'm protective about my own stuff, and I'm very happy that people do enjoy what I've done at the minute. But it would, it's just something unsettling about it.
Why don't we go with just replace every theme tune with the Kylie remix that you did, and we'll settle at that.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. I know you probably wanted something a bit more specific, but that became a bit of a ramble. All right. So
it's fine. Ask better questions, Tom. God, bloody apples. Okay, next. Sorry, Tom. That was unnecessary. Next question is from Cal at generic_tweeting, has asked, what moment in the show sticks with you the most? What's like a seminal moment in your head from Doctor Who that you always come to?
Okay, so I have two answers. One of them is very specific, and one is a little bit less rambly than the last one, I promise.
It's fine.
And I'll go with the slightly rambly one first. So Donna is one of my favourite companions. And I just love how she is with other people during her show, because she's so, you know, she wears her feelings on her sleeve, and then when someone is suffering, particularly in the library episodes when Linda Evangelista is struggling with what's going on, and then obviously when she dies, Donna is just she's so kind to her, but she's so upset as well, and it just really resonates with me, you know. If I was in that situation, I'd want someone to be as nice as that. That's why I love Donna, because she is just, you know, underneath all the fire, she's a deeply empathetic person, and I think that's lovely, and I'm so glad we got that right in the show. But for a very specific moment, it's got to be from the TV movie, actually, because it's one of the other earliest memories I have, and it's when he's just regenerated, he's in the back of Grace's car, and he's pulling the catheter or whatever out of his chest. Horrifying. Oh, who thought that was a great idea? Like, it's really disturbing, and it still sticks with me. It makes me feel a little bit weird about any kind of medical stuff now. So
yeah, that's an interesting answer. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like something that was emotional, or not something that was just disturbing for you. It's outright disturbing, but it's a good answer. It's a great answer. It's not what I expected. So next question. Another former guest has asked a question. At Trolley Reviews, Mr. TARDIS, William Carlyle, has said, what's your favourite version of the Doctor Who theme tune and why? I feel like this question had to be asked at some point. I probably would have asked it
clearly
if he didn't. So yeah, what's your favourite?
So I feel like it would be cheating in a way to say, oh, it's got to be Delia's, because it's the original. I mean, it is great. It is just so astonishing that it's still so fresh and weird now.
Yeah.
But that felt a bit easier to me, so I wanted to really think about, what do I like in a theme tune, and what do I feel has best reflected that. And I think it's probably it came down to a toss up between Peter Howell's theme tune during the first half of the 80s and Sagan's current one. Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. It's still recording.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It closed. The app closed, but I'm still recording. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's right. A toss-up between the Peter House theme between in the early 50s and Sagan's one, the current version. Peter Howell's one because it was the first variant of the theme, like officially of the theme tune, and what a theme tune! Like, it's astonishing.
Yeah.
And it is reflective of, as we discussed earlier, what makes the theme tunes so good. Like the show, it regenerates. It becomes what was, very 60s experimental found sound to the peak of 80s synth and electronic techniques, and it's just so good. And then with Sagan's, it's a very special thing to be able to take quite literally the original source material and manage to completely reinvent it.
Yeah.
Because it is, for like, and I'll get onto this later because I think there's a question coming up about it. It uses everything from the original theme, but it's so different. It sounds so different. The only like genuinely fresh bit in terms of the sound is the percussion on the top to bring out the dum-de-dums, but it's just, it's quintessential Doctor Who.
It really is. No, it's a great way of describing it. I absolutely loved that theme. I completely agree. I think other than the Derbyshire and Grainer theme, it's got to be up there. It's definitely, obviously it's not the most nostalgic for me because it's quite new. I've got a lot of nostalgia towards that first Murray Gold theme, and the original, like the Derbyshire version. But if I could have said like everything that I wanted from a Doctor Who theme, it would have been that. And the title sequence is beautiful as well.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Like, visually,
some people don't really
great.
like it.
Yeah, I really like it.
It's one of those things I don't really agree with at all, because I think it's stunning. And the fact that, like with Capaldi's, they got a fan to design it is he's John Smith on YouTube, but his real name's Ben Pickles, I think. And his stuff has always impressed me. So to see him be able to develop a concept makes me very happy, and to have Sagan's theme go along with it.
Yeah, definitely. And a question that is a little bit similar. Well, it's not really similar. But while we're on Sagan, how was the making of the Sagan themes that you've done? Because I know that you've done a few variations on it, and which one is your favourite that you've done?
So I'll answer those backwards. The favourite one is definitely the most recent one, because that was one I really felt I got to grips and understood, roughly speaking, what Sagan had done. Because the ones that came before, a lot of trial and error, extremely messy. I don't particularly like them as much now, because I had this breakthrough. You know, the mixing's off. There's bits that are just wrong. They just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the most recent one, because yeah, I had this breakthrough. I understood what he'd done. And as a result, I felt like it is definitely one of my best theme emulations to date.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that are trying to sound like one of the official ones. It definitely is, because it was just such a huge learning curve for me, and that has carried me forward. And again, it made me understand what he did and why it's so groundbreaking to have used the original source material in this way, and yet it sounds completely different.
Yeah.
Like, principally, at first I thought it was a completely new bass line. The melody is relatively unchanged, but the bass line, I thought that was brand new, and that's how I approached it with the first two that I did. But no, it is the original bass line, but he's pitched it down an octave.
Really? I didn't actually know that it was the original.
Yeah. Everything you hear, apart from the bongos, is from the original Derbyshire track. So yeah, the bass line, he's pitched it down. He's done some funky distortion. There's a bit of like chorus and flanger going in to bring out the slight bite you get with the top bit of the bass line, which is the dum-de-dums.
Yeah.
And a whole host of other things that I'm not sure quite what I was doing when I was making it, but it sounded like I was on the right track. The most exciting bit for me was, you know, the little closing counter melody, the da 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 da, at the end. Yeah, that is sampled from the in the first bit of the main melody, because there's two parts of the melody. There's like the main sine wave that you hear, but there's on top of it there's like a higher pitched glass organ kind of thing going on. Danny Stewart, he calls it the emphasis. That just helps to bring out the individual notes a little bit better. He's taken the first half of the third note and pitched it to different notes to make the counter melody. Wow. Which is just so cool to me. That is so cool.
No, that's incredible. So it's like he's just picking out bits from, like, it's like things that are buried in the theme tune and then making them more prevalent in his version. Yeah.
Well, we're very lucky.
Great.
We're very lucky when it comes to the theme tune, because obviously so many of the old tapes of the stories have been lost. But the theme tune that did survive, and that has since been like remastered and restored by Mark Ayres, who does a lot of the remastering of the Blu-ray DVDs. So it's his master track that Sagan is using, which I'm pretty certain that it is the original theme tune. So Sagan has the full set of what
Yeah.
Delia did, which is why he's able to do so much with it.
That's amazing. And it's just pure luck that it's survived as well.
Oh, we are so lucky. So lucky.
But yeah, so that just makes me love the theme tune even more. Just like little tidbits like that. Like, it's just a proper love letter to that first theme. Because I felt like I don't hate the later gold themes, but I feel like that first Smith one was great, and after that I wasn't as keen on Murray's other themes. They seemed to get a little bit away from what I see as a great Doctor Who theme. I think you've got two options with it. Really, is obviously you might disagree with me, but I think you've got that Derbyshire basis where it's like creepy, eerie, bass-driven, like theme tune, which is what Sagan's gone for, and then you've got the close to the 80s themes, but obviously Murray did something completely different with it with the orchestra. But that first New Who theme, it's probably just because I'm really nostalgic towards it. Like with Chris's and David's era, and the various versions of that theme. But like you go big and bold and loud with it, essentially. But yeah, it got like obviously it got a bit messy. I don't know whether to say messy. It just felt like there was a lot going on, and it needed to be stripped back a bit, which I think Sagan's done perfectly.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't disagree. I feel like because Murray, he to date at least has made the most variants of the theme tune. He did the season 1, and then there's the live rearrangement of it that appears in the closing titles for season 2 and 3. So that's 2 already, and then there's the season 4 one, which is another rearrangement. Same kind of principle, but it's even bigger.
Well,
the bass line is different. Yeah, those are really brought to the fore. But that has its own variant because the Voyage of the Damned one is very slightly different. So
really?
that could count as two. I don't personally. Yeah, there's very slightly different. I don't think it's a re-recording, but it's a very different mix, and they do sound different. Then obviously the season 5 one that goes into series 7B, we get that new theme, and the Christmas one is different from the series 7B one. Alongside
and then
that,
you've got all of Capaldi's ones as well.
Yeah, but also he did the 50th anniversary at the end.
Yeah.
That's
and then you've got the
another
Capaldi
weird
guitar
rearrangement.
You got the guitar
Yeah,
theme
the
as
guitar
well.
one.
There's so many.
I think I tried to count once. I can't do it now because my brain isn't working. But I think he's done like, depending on if you count the little variants or not, 8, which is astonishing.
Yeah. Which is like more than there was before Who came back.
Yeah.
Like.
And so I think by the time Capaldi, I don't know whether it's true or not, but it just sort of feels like he was just running out of ideas, and he was just I'll go in this way and that'll do. I'll slap a preset on, and that'll do. I do quite like the Capaldi one because it's much more electronic than what we'd had before.
Yeah, it is.
And there's lots of little quirks going on in the background that are actually quite interesting to me. But yeah, it's not the strongest.
Yeah, it's just a bit. I feel like I'd prefer it much more if it was just pitched down slightly. It's really
it's very shrill, isn't it?
Really sharp. Just a bit jarring. So while we're on the top, these questions are just flowing beautifully. From Matthew, who is it's not that difficult to pronounce, but it's at Matthew Tweets, but the A is an X. Matthew Tweets.
I think we know what's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
don't worry.
That's good.
What's
that's
the question?
He's just asked. I hope this makes sense. I think it makes sense to me. What are your thoughts on the fanfare from the 2010 theme?
I know who's asked this. It's definitely, it's got a lot of fare. I guess it could have lots of fans with it. I have a slight confession to make, because I distinctly remember watching the 11th Hour and being, because at this point I was like, I really like the theme tune, I want to do stuff with this. So I was so excited to hear what the new theme was going to be, because I just knew there was going to be new titles and a new theme tune, and then that it played and I was sort of like, what the hell was going on there? Because it's really weird harmonically. That being said, I've grown up a bit since, and it's just so fun to play, like, particularly because I did a version of it fairly recently. Can't remember what I called it. XI 2020, 11/2020. It was just so fun figuring out just precisely how it worked. And then obviously the prom versions. Oh yeah, there's 2 more versions of the theme tunes Murray's done.
Murray, just stick to your guns, man.
Yeah.
Just keep with the one theme. It's fine.
Yeah, that arrangement he did for the BBC proms is just the shivers, because it repeats but it's slightly more embellished, and I love that second one where you've got like the strings and the woodwinds go and it's just so it is definitely representative of what I think is Murray's style, and absolutely of where Doctor Who was around that period, that like 2009 to 2013, that just like big, bold and brash, and it just demands your attention.
Yeah.
And the fanfare is a part of it. It's really quite striking. Yeah, I'm still a little bit ambivalent about it these days. It's not when, like, if I'm thinking of like making a new variation, it's not on my go-to list of something I want to include, but I think it's because it's so specific to series 5 to 7. I think it belongs there.
Yeah. Definitely. Next question is from Clayton, who is at Commander Moose without an E on Commander. Just spell your names right, people. This is a tough question for you. I'm intrigued as to how you can answer this. Yeah, I think you know the one that's coming, because I think you tweeted about this question. In a community which has thousands of theme edits and remakes, why do you think yours stand out among them? Because they do. They do stand out among them.
Yeah, this was a question I had to give a lot of thought to, because it's like I don't want to undersell myself, but also I don't want to come across as like really arrogant and condescending or patronising.
It's cruel of me to put this question in. I do apologise, because you come across as a very modest person.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, just say what you think, because people obviously take to them. People love your themes.
Yeah, and it's still very strange because very occasionally something does just pop off, like it just does numbers, and I'm like, I don't quite understand why, but also because there are so many, there have been so many, and there's so many people now that do really interesting things that I'm really interested. Off the top of my head, Salem Sounds, he occasionally does variations on the Doctor Who theme tune that are really good. I really like the production on them. They're really tight, because I personally don't think like my mixing, my production is that great. That's what my biggest pitfall, I feel, because I do struggle a bit trying to get the balance of things right. But theirs has been really good, and I'd be remiss in to not mention Gwylock, Ned Warren, who really puts out some really stellar stuff. So I don't understand necessarily what it is about mine that does catch people's attention, but all I can say is that for me it's, they're all labours of love. I put a lot of effort into them, and I try to be really good with how I treat the theme tune itself. I don't like being frivolous with it. I want to make sure that everything I'm doing is very deliberate, and evokes a particular tone and feeling. And I guess I'd say, for anyone who's maybe wanting to do their own, has just started or thinking about it, I'd say just channel that. Channel, if you love it, like we all love it, channel that. Take the time to make sure it's as perfect as you want it to be. Be faithful while being original, but mostly enjoy it, because it's really fun making these. I cannot describe or explain any more than I have already. Just how fun it is, and then obviously the response will come from that. Yeah, and that is what I hope.
You say that you hope, but it is what happens, because you can tell. I can tell just from talking to you that you're so passionate about it, and it's so great. And you can tell that it is just like this passion project, and I think that's where the best fan content comes from. Like I said, over the past few weeks, we've had some people on who've made some incredible stuff, like George with the World Enough in Time Noir, which we'll get onto that, which he also worked on. And then we've got Sophie Arles's art, where she's doing these live streams and just drawing things off the top of her head, that people suggest, which is incredible. And then Mr. TARDIS doing the Collateral of Ivanhoe audio drama. There's just some amazing stuff that's coming out of them.
There's so much incredible talent that it does bother me that the BBC doesn't tap them more. I really love that Big Finish have got so many different people who are fans of the show to do the covers, the artwork for their stories. And it makes me really happy, being able to say, this person designed the cover, but this person maybe provided the Dalek, the 3D model of the Dalek. James Johnson in particular, he's at the Pridonian on Twitter.
I wanted to talk about James Johnson.
Oh, okay.
He at some point in the podcast, his Daleks are just they're beautiful.
Yeah, they're and particularly is that
shouty boys,
that redesign that went up a few days ago. That's what should be happening.
It's really nice. But all of these people...
every time he tweets a picture, it's just like, yay! We get more Dalek content. I love it.
Yes, I genuinely think that you could make that the amount of talent. Obviously, there's financial limitations and legal limitations, but the amount of talent that I see in the Doctor Who community, that if you got enough of these people in one room, they could make a series of Doctor Who easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're the composer, and then And then there's so many amazing writers, there's so many amazing actors. Like, you could make that. This is why I'm less worried about if there's another hiatus at some point, because I genuinely think that there could be enough people to just make a fan-made version at some point. How amazing
but that's
would that
precisely
be? Like,
what
just a fan
happened
version.
with the Wilderness Years, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You know, to read about it, it didn't really feel like, you know, just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the thing that happened. But actually seeing what people are doing now while the show's still on, it's just like, yeah, the show does go on. Maybe not on telly, but it really does. Whether it's Big Finish or just fans doing their own thing, it's really it is reassuring.
If anything, if the Wilderness Years 2.0 did ever occur at some point, God forbid, but maybe it would just, we'd get even better fan content, because people are just going to be so longing for Doctor Who. People are going to put so much more into it because there's no Doctor Who to watch on telly.
Particularly with social media as well, and a lot of the more online things. You know, like particularly with resources like Patreon. Like, I almost everything I've done in the last year has been such an explosion of what I could do. Partly because I have a Patreon account. And I am so incredibly grateful for the support that people have given through that, because just the software and the hardware that I've been able to get just from that has completely transformed how I work and what I do and what I put out there. I would not be able to do what I'm capable of doing today without that. And then can you just imagine applying that principle onto a fan series in another Wilderness Year period? I think, you know, provided the BBC aren't arses, there could be something really quite special.
Yeah. Well, yeah, hopefully, long may it continue. Because obviously lockdown has been a big thing for a lot of people in terms of creativity. And it's, even though it's been a horrible time, it's birthed some amazing stuff in this community.
Yeah.
There's been some bad recently. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's aware of it.
Yeah.
We won't touch on that too much because this is an area of positivity. But yeah, it's great to see. Okay, so next question is from @TFO_TT. We're rocking with that. I'm not trying to pronounce that because it's letters. This is a nice fun little question. What is your favourite TARDIS interior and why?
That's a good question.
It is.
This
was a late one, so you might not have seen this. This came in quite late.
Okay. See, I do really like the Fugitive Doctors one, you know, the slight variant on the classic. But I think it's probably the TV movie one. Because that is
really?
because it's such a concept, you know, with the metal struts and the console in the middle, but it goes up into the ceiling that just sort of disappears, and then everything around it. Obviously, you lose the magic of the round things, but it really understands like how the TARDIS can work. In that it's just you can put any old crap in there, like, and it's great. You know, he's got his vinyl player. It's not vinyl player, but you know what I mean. And you know, he's having tea, and then there's the library books shelves on the other side, and it's just it's such a well made set, and it's such a shame that he only ever got the one showing. Because it's so detailed, you can tell they've put a lot of effort in.
Yeah, it's a shame that it won't be seen again. Well, it's unlikely to be. I imagine. I imagine that if we do get McGann TARDIS that we might probably get something closer to like the Ward Doctor one, but yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an outlier in that era, really, isn't it? Because it goes from white room, giant wooden Gothic library, white room, and then it goes back to white room, and then we go big coral dome thing.
I mean, that is such a strong look, and like definitely for nostalgic reasons, I do love it a lot. But there is just something about the TV movie TARDIS that just matches Paul McGann's Doctor so well. Like, it really is a reflection of him, even down to the outfit as well. Like, they just go together. You could just believe it. Like, you could see this man, and he definitely has his house that looks like that.
Yeah, definitely, completely agree. And this is our final question. Let me check. Yeah, this is our final question. And it's sort of just going to lead on into more of a discussion, really. Obviously, just things that you're doing at the moment. Dr_Mick, the I is a 1, at DM1CK. He's asked, what is your next project? So I know that you're working on a couple of things at the moment. Well, you've just finished a couple of things that I have, these podcaster privileges I've managed to listen to a little bit early, but they will be out by the time this comes out.
Yeah, everyone will know about those hopefully by the time this does come out. But yeah, my next project, I don't actually know because obviously, like, I started working a full-time job really recently, so it's it has thrown everything up into the air. So I don't know, and I've got several things on the go at the minute that I don't have the time to give, really, and a lot like, I'm one of those people who has about 50 different things on the go, because I'll start them and think, I don't like it, or something's not quite right, so I'll leave it, and then it just piles up. But I suppose the main things that are waiting for me to get back to are grammar. Who needs it? So I really want to do a variation on the Star Trek Discovery theme. Because I love Star Trek.
Interesting.
I'm just a massive sci-fi nerd. If it's sci-fi, there's a good chance I've seen it or at least heard about it. So yeah, Star Trek is like my second love, next to Doctor Who. And I really wanted to do something with the Discovery theme, and I did try. I think it must be about 3 years ago now. I even put out a little video, like a little trailer, being like coming soon, and it was the Discovery theme. And then I never did anything with it. Oh. So it's a good 3 years.
It's a bit late.
Yeah,
but yeah,
3 years in the making.
You can finally do it.
Yeah, because I've got so much different equipment to play with now that I feel like I can finally realise something that actually matches what I wanted to do. So hopefully I'll get that out. On the Doctor Who front, there is a concept as such. It's a mixture of if Doctor Who got the HBO, like Netflix, big budget prestige show treatment idea, mixed with just like if I genuinely had the opportunity to write the theme tune, what would it be? But that's...
I love that. I'd love to hear that.
I mean, I don't want to make any promises of when it'll come out or anything like that.
It's going to be a long project, I imagine.
Yeah, like it's already, in a way, it's already been several months, because I started it once and then was like, I didn't really like it. Then I started again about a month or two ago, which ended up bringing in a lot of what I did before into it, but it was quite different. And I liked how it sounded, but it just doesn't feel like finished. It doesn't match the drama that I wanted with it. So that is somewhere in the pipeline. What else? I had thought about doing, again, going with the Star Trek route, a version of the Voyager and the Deep Space Nine themes, because I had a few ideas about what I wanted to do with those, but I've never had the chance to knuckle down with that. The future it's actually pretty uncertain at the moment with regards to
a bit wide open
content and stuff, particularly because I did get a bit burnt out this year, unsurprisingly, with everything that's going on. And I did love making, the theme tunes for other people's fan projects, but it's quite hard work being hunched over a laptop on a not very comfy chair. Does take it out on you mentally and physically. And I just knew that I was reaching a point where the quality of what I was doing was beginning to slip, because it was getting hard. So I needed to take a break, and I really wanted to put energy into doing, the more original things. And my thinking was, let it rest for a bit, get my bearings, figure out other things to do, and then try and get back into it. But now I have a job, so that's thrown all of that completely out the window.
I mean, it's completely understandable that you'd feel a bit burnt out, because, like you said, you've done a lot of stuff this year. You've had a very busy year. So just to talk about some of the things that you've done, because it's a year to look back on, definitely.
Oh God,
with pride for yourself, because you've done some great stuff. So you're well deserving of a break. But I wanted to touch on, because obviously George is a friend of the show, Ace Creeper, and you've done a few collaborations with him, and it seems to be a match made in heaven. There's been some great stuff. So obviously he's done a couple of fan-made audio dramas. So what's it been like working on those? Because I think from you and from George, the production value on those, like obviously going back to what we were saying before about with the quality of content that fans are pushing out at the minute, the production value on those are out of this world. So what was it like working with George on that? And like obviously I know that you have one that by the time that this comes out, which is Fall of the Master, which is coming out as part of the live stream, I believe the charity live stream that George is doing. That'll be out by this point. I haven't heard it yet, but I've heard your music for it, which gave me goosebumps. I just want to say.
Good.
There's a little moment. Yeah, there's a little moment about halfway through, when the beat of 4 comes in the background.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it really, I was just like, oh, that's good. I was loving it already, but I was like, oh, that's good. But sorry, back to the question. What's it like? What's it been like doing those? And the reception's been great on them as well. I imagine for you and for George.
Yeah. Oh, it's such fun because he's scratching that itch I've been having of wanting to do more original things. And it's just so much fun. And he gives me a lot of leeway. He pretty much he'd be like, I'm doing this. Do you want to do it? And I'll say, yeah, it sounds cool. I'll do it. And you're just like, yeah, we need maybe a little bit of this and this, a bit of it. You go for it. Just do what you want.
Yeah.
So that's really like, it's really freeing because I get to like experiment with different, like particularly sounds and tones, because they're so crucial. And so the first one I did, like the adaptation of Things She Thought While Falling.
Yeah.
When I first agreed to that, I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then George sent me the audio of Ellie, who plays 13, And
Yeah.
I was blown away at, one, just how good her impression of Jodie Whittaker is, and two,
she's great. Yeah.
what an incredible little, a well adapted little piece and a well acted piece, that I never felt like I don't know what's going on here. I just knew what to do, and it was just sort of like filling in the gaps where necessary, really, around it. That's the worst thing I'm finding. Like, you know, I'm capable of coming up with decent little motifs or whatever. It's plugging the gaps in between, you know, the big moments. So that was what was really interesting with Fall of the Master, because the one note I gave for myself after doing things she thought were falling was, you don't have to fill every gap. You know, let things breathe if it feels right that they would breathe. And so there's like four. It sort of sounds like three, but there's four very distinct moments that really reflect what's going on with the story itself. And that one, although George asked me to do it months ago, obviously he's been busy, he hasn't been able to get around to it. But then he messaged me about a week or two ago. I was like, do you still want to do this? Because, you know, it's very short notice. I want to do this for the live stream. And I probably should have thought a little bit more about agreeing to it. But I was just like, yeah, I'll do it, before thinking, oh God, I really don't have much time. Because although there's still a 2-week window, I only really have weekends free. Fall of the Master I did last weekend. All of it.
What? So you did all of it in one weekend?
Yeah.
So just for context, this is the Thursday. We are currently recording the Thursday before the live stream. So this was last weekend, as in this weekend just gone.
Yeah.
So 4 days ago.
Yeah.
You did all of it.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That's nearly 7 minutes of music.
Yeah. I'm surprised myself.
You're just there like, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I did that.
Because I told myself, like, you know, once I processed like just how little time I had, I was like keep it simple. Don't you know, this doesn't have to be like a full orchestration type of thing. And I really wanted it to be more reflective of my what I would want to write, because with Things You Thought While Falling, although I had free reign, I was very conscious of the fact that I knew what sounded a bit Murray and what sounded a bit Sagan, and I was happy with it. I'm still really happy with it, but it didn't feel like there was enough of what I wanted to do. So this was very much me, and I'm so happy with how it turned out, because I finished it in time, for one. That's that's always good. And I think people really like it, and again, the actors that George has got to be the Missy and John Sims Master, again, incredible. Really, like, I just forgot what John Sim and Michelle Gomez sounded like, because they're such good performances. They're so spot on. And Missy in this has some really delightful moments that will absolutely come through once everyone gets to see it. I mean, I'm talking about it like it, you know, when this comes out, it will have happened. So yeah, Missy is good. Missy was good, and the Master was good.
It's very hard for us to talk about this, because this is coming out in like 3 weeks' time, because I wanted to get ahead for Christmas. But like that, I'm so excited to listen to it now, because I was excited anyway, because obviously George is doing it, and everything that George touches is gold. But when I saw that you were sending me the music for that, because you were like, I've got a couple of things you can listen to for stuff that's coming up that you can listen to ahead of time. When you sent me that, I was like, oh, I'm a bit giddy about it. I'm excited to listen, and I was not disappointed. And I'm not going to lie, I'll probably listen to it a few more times before now on the live stream. Because it's really good. And now you telling me that you did it in a weekend 4 days ago is absolutely mind blowing. I can't even compute that kind of how. I don't know. That's incredible.
To be honest, I'm not sure either.
No, I don't think you are. I can see it in your face that you're as shocked as me.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something I should make a habit of, because otherwise I'm never going to have free time. But it was something I like going to uni. I was one of those people where, I would just do it at the last minute. And then when I tried, properly tried to make sure I did all my reading and writing essays before the deadline, I did worse. So I guess I learned the right lesson for all the wrong reasons in a way, is that, when I've got a deadline, when my time is really short, apparently I can do some decent stuff, so I'm not going to stop.
Sometimes it works better. Yeah, sometimes better stuff comes out of winging it on a tight deadline. But
and I think with Fall of the Master, because I'd had several months to think about it, I knew that generally what the sound I wanted to go with. And George said, like, I think is what he said back then. I don't remember anything. But he did want it, to capture, the mastery essence of, John Sim and Missy, what we had heard within the show. And of course I was thinking, yeah, sure, but if I want to put it out there, I do need to be careful of the legal stuff. I don't want to just transplant what Murray did for their themes.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I could have done, but where's the fun in that in a way? But there are little things which obviously you picked up, the 4 beats, the heartbeat thing.
Yeah, it's you can tell that it's not even close to plagiarism. What you've come up with is so original, but it's just got these little tributes in it, which are lovely. Like, and you can hear it. When I was listening to it, like, it was like I had like a montage of like master moments going around in my head, which was great. Like, just like I could just see, like, it was almost like the track itself was like going through the masters. Obviously, I don't know if this was intentional, but just like the start felt very Delgado and Ainley.
Oh, really?
In my head, yeah. I just got the. Like, I don't know why, but then and then it got more New Who, and Sim and Missy as it went on. That was just my personal experience with it. But yeah, it really told the story by itself, and I can't wait for everyone else to hear it. You all will have heard it by now if you're listening to this, hopefully. But yeah, there's some great stuff in there. What we're gonna do now, that was a very extended Twitter questions section.
Oh, was it,
most of the podcast. Yeah, it was. But we've got some other parts of this big building that is the Who Knew metaphorical building, as I like to refer to it. And one of those parts is the Corridor of Fame.
Have you ever been limited by who you were before?
One day, I shall come back. Yes, I shall come back.
Our lives are different to anybody else's. That's the exciting part.
Sarah Jane?
Do I have the right?
For some people, small, beautiful events is what life is all about.
Compared to us, 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really
Every great decision creates ripples, like a huge boulder dropped in a lake.
But it was a childish dream that made you a doctor. You dreamt you could no more.
I'm not just the time. I'm the last of the time.
It just disappears, doesn't it? Everything you are gone in a moment, like
breath on a mirror.
I do what I do because it's right. Because it's decent. And above all, it's kind.
Love abides in the face of everything.
So, for anybody who is new to the podcast, the Corridor of Fame is me ripping off an age-old concept, which is the Hall of Fame, where people who appear on the show get to submit somebody from the Doctor Who universe. It can be anyone from, actors to crew members to showrunners to catering staff, which we've already had thanks to Tom Vance, to fans, creators, artists, anything. It can be anyone, and they get to submit them to the Corridor of Fame. We've had some great names so far. We've had Liz Sladen, of course, John Barrowman, William Russell, and most recently, our first crew member, Graham Harper, has joined the Corridor. So, I was going to say Mr. Peter. I don't know why. Mr. Peter. Mr. Dalekium.
Oh, God.
You have chosen someone. Again, I don't know who this is, but please tell me who is going on the wall of the Corridor of Fame.
Well, just before I get to that, I feel like it's just worth stating that Dalekium as a name is not something I've ever said out loud until very recently. So, and I wasn't even sure how to pronounce it until someone asked, and I was like, I have no idea. So it's still quite surreal actually hearing it out loud. So I just wanted to put that there. But yeah, my person for the illustrious Corridor of Fame, I mean, it's got to be Delia Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Like, who else could it possibly be?
I was hoping you would. I thought there was one or two that you could have picked. I was imagining. I mean, this is sort of a musical special,
Yeah,
like a little musical special before Christmas, that we're releasing. But yeah, I imagined that it would be some form of composer or someone who'd worked in the music of Doctor Who. But there are a lot to choose from. Obviously, you've got Sagan, Murray, from New Who. You've got Delia and Ron Grainer as well. But obviously, Delia took what Ron Grainer wrote and did what Delia does to it. And then, as you said, Howell and so on. So obviously we've covered it a little bit already, but why for you is Delia above all of those people? I suppose my question is, because again I touched on it there, if it's credited as Ron Grainer who's written the piece, but then Delia Derbyshire essentially birthed it to life. Is what I gather from my knowledge. So what separates the two of them? Why is Delia the one that you have selected for the Corridor of Fame?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have touched on it a bit. She gave us the Doctor Who theme. And to Ron Grainer's credit, when he first heard what she'd come up with, he really tried to get her listed as a co-writing credit.
Yes.
But sadly, because of the BBC rules at the time, the Radiophonic Workshop could be credited, but not individuals, which is desperately sad, because it has meant that her name hasn't quite cut through in the same way that it has. That being said, actually, the music curriculum, the education curriculum at the minute now teaches the Doctor Who theme in class.
Really?
Yeah, from primary school up to Key Stage 3, I think. And Sagan's done a little video for it. There's reams of resources, because it's, for whatever reason, it's become relevant. So there's lots of stuff on like BBC Bite Size.
Yeah, that's wonderful to
and
hear.
what I noticed,
that's really, really nice.
And what I noticed was that Delia Derbyshire's name was getting put left, right, front of centre. It's Delia Derbyshire, written by Ron Grainer, not Ron Grainer realised by Delia Derbyshire.
Yeah. And I think, obviously Ron Grainer had a big part to play in that theme. You can't dispute that, but he said it himself. I've read a quote recently actually where when Delia first showed Ron Grainer the theme, and he said to her, "Did I write that?"
Yeah.
and she said, "Some of it."
Yeah.
So she really did take a very loose concept from him, and she ran with it and really experimented with some mad things for the time, like we've said, like being able to do that back in the 60s. But yeah, so amazing. And again, it's a case of, like, obviously I don't want to touch too much on the discourse in the Doctor Who community at the moment, but we have this impossible aligning of stars that I've mentioned previously, that you've got Verity Lambert, who is a female Jewish young producer at the BBC, given her first job in a time when that didn't happen. And then you've got Waris Hussein, who's a young Asian director who, that doesn't happen either. And then it's an immigrant who's come up with the idea in Sidney Newman. And then you've got an Australian composer who's written this. And then you've got a woman who's making the theme tune. It's born out of... It's like this show is born to represent people who are different but amazing, and people who might not necessarily fit in or stand out from the crowd slightly, and like obviously that's how we've all connected to it. That's how most Whovians get into it. It's definitely the case for me. And Delia Derbyshire's part of that main group, really, isn't she? Of Sydney, Verity, Waris, Delia, and Ron, who were there at the very beginning.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was thinking about it the other day. What we always think about what is it that makes Doctor Who endure, but I was thinking about it in sort of like those terms. What is it that really does draw people to the show? And I think probably that cast of producing people behind the scenes injected something into it, but also like the character of the Doctor is so ephemeral. There is it's so very fluid. There's just unknowability is the core of the character, because for all the massive introductions of new bits of lore, particularly recently, obviously with the Timeless Children, it's great. It will probably add a new dimension for the show to mine for the next few years, particularly under Chris Chibnall. But at the end of the day, the show bounces back to the character of the Doctor being this time traveling alien that, as much as we try to get to know them, the less we know, which is really interesting to me, because I can't think of another character quite like it. Obviously Doctor Who wasn't designed as a limited run series. It was it's very much come with a TV show for the kiddies at the weekend, but it has such infinite potential to it, which is really quite striking. And I think it has to do with the fact that the Doctor is this can be anything or anyone. And obviously, particularly with fan fiction, or with the art, or people coming up with their own characters, their own takes to it, is everyone. There's every possible variation it always makes me giggle that, you know, people are like, you know, this is who the Doctor is, this is who they are as a person, and yeah, in a way I can see, you know, like, you know, they should be a bit grumpy or, you know, a bit quirky and weird or whatever, but
Yeah.
to be honest, I can't remember who said it, but it actually really made me think. It's like they said that actually the Doctor is probably the easiest role to play, not the hardest, because you can just do whatever as long as it's relatively consistent with some of the things that have come before.
Can have fun with it, and it's this, and like coming back to this, it's that idea of regeneration, of not just the character but the show, and back to it, the music as well. And it's, and you know, going back to Delia as well, it's an absolute testament to her and the work that she did, that not only has this theme that she's created, it's inspired so many composers after her who've worked on this show. It's been one of the contributing factors to it, you know, continuing for so long, this iconic music, the iconic themes, but also the fact that nearly 60 years later you get a young composer like Sagan joining Doctor Who, and he looks at what Delia did and goes, well, you know, I can't necessarily improve on this, but I can interpret it, and I can pick out pieces to create a tribute, something that's a tribute, but it's also completely fresh, and you know, it fits with this era of the show. So Delia is a wonderful pick. I'm very, very happy that she's in.
Absolutely.
I feel like I say this every week, but you know, I'm very happy with everybody who goes in. We haven't really had I don't think there's many controversial ones. I'm sure there'll be some discussions, if, you know, when John Nathan Turner gets in here, because he probably should get in here at some point. But yeah, it's great to have her in here, and it's great to have another, you know, not an unsung hero of Doctor Who, and I think not necessarily within the community. Like obviously everyone knows her name, but you know, more widely, she is a bit of an unknown quantity.
And that's why I'm so happy that, you know, she is being taught in our schools now. That's astonishing.
That's wonderful. Yeah, honestly, that's
going to be a whole generation or two who, you know, may not have watched Doctor Who, but now they're going to know about it from the music and about Delia. Particularly because I think it's like sort of the one last injustice that's never quite been realised is just how seminal she was for synthetic music, like across the board. Like what she did, it was what's the word? It was like she broke a threshold.
Yeah, she's a pioneer.
Yeah,
she's a pioneer.
Yeah,
definitely.
She is truly a pioneer because she inspired so many people around her at the time to go in a different direction or to like follow her method, and her life. I don't know much about it as I feel like I should, but what I do know is it's very bittersweet. Because she works with the Radiophonic Workshop for a good amount of time, and I'm not quite sure what happens, but she still works, but she where she ends up is a lot more isolated than where she was while working on Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere. I think you know, she definitely moved away quite a bit from music, which is a shame. I think at one point she was working in a bookshop.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it just seems not like a waste, because obviously there's nothing wrong with working in a bookshop, but you know, when she's been at that peak and she's created something that iconic, you know, usually you push on. But the fact that she was even able to do that in the first place is impressive, with her being a woman in the 1960s when, you know, things like this didn't really happen to women that much. And usually, you know, obviously it's not Ron Grainer's fault, but a man gets given the credit when it really should have been shared. And obviously it's down to BBC rules and things like that. But yeah, it's a shame. But hopefully now she's hanging in the corridor, we can give her a bit more appreciation.
Well, I just want to add in because she wasn't quite as like focused with the music as she had been before, but she didn't stop. And what I found astonishing was that after she died, like she had a load of tapes stored in her house, and on one of those tapes, and I can't remember if they dated it or not, but basically it was quite old, and I think she passed away in 2003. And yeah, they found this one particular tape, and on this tape was essentially drum and bass, but 10 years before drum and bass even happened.
What?
Yeah, I think it's drum and bass.
That's incredible.
And it's from the same principle of, like using found sounds, but it's that definite drum and bass beat, like that the really fast thumpy drums is. I'll try and find it because it really blew my mind, because that's just how pioneering she was. She invented something that got invented 10 years later.
And became this massive phenomenon.
Yeah.
But she's just got it knocking around in the garage.
Yeah.
That's incredible. She's a genius.
Yeah.
She's a genius. There's no two ways about it. And yeah, I'm glad, like I said, that we can use this podcast to give her a bit more appreciation. Give her some the love that she deserves. So she's in the corridor.
Good.
I hope she enjoys her time. So we're coming to the end now, which is a shame. I've had a great time.
Yeah, we've been talking a while, haven't we?
Yeah, a couple of hours now. Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, I just wanted to finish on a question that I finish on every week, and
Doctor Who.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, what does Doctor Who mean to you?
Oh,
it's a big question.
That is a big question.
Yeah.
What it means to me? It means it is the source of probably most, if not all, of my guiding inspirations, particularly with the music. That goes without saying. Because I am just in awe of what Delia and the Radiophonic Workshop did in the 60s, and it constantly inspires me to do something. To make music, it's one of my biggest musical influences, absolutely. And then like Doctor Who is the show. Well, I can't stop talking about it, so it must be doing something good.
I know. Tell me about it. It's literally the main reason I've made this podcast. It's just so I can talk about Doctor Who anymore, really.
And to touch on something I said at some point, 84 years ago in this recording, is that it's the infinite potential. To quote Star Trek, infinite diversity in infinite combinations. That is what I think the show is the fact that there's no limitations on the possibility or the imagination.
Yeah.
And it is just a constantly finding new ways to tell stories, to make music, to inspire people.
Yeah.
And that is just astonishing. Even when it's not officially on, it's still going somewhere, because it is loved by that many people. And the BBC may have had its rocky relationship with it every now and again, but clearly there's still a lot of love there. Sorry, my stomach's gurgling. That ruins a really nice moment.
That's fun.
Oh God, let down at the last hurdle. But yeah, it's fun. It can do anything and everything. It brings people together. It creates some of the stupidest memes I've ever seen on the internet.
It's just a bit good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really?
It may not necessarily be great, but it is absolutely good.
Oh, that's a great way of putting it. That's a great way. We'll settle on that.
I don't think that's my thought, but whoever said it, thank you for letting me say it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, your other one was a quote from Star Trek.
I know.
So that's fine. That's the only way to describe Doctor Who is with a quote from Star Trek. It's great. I love it. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
And same to you. I've had so much fun.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you as much time as you want to plug whatever you want. Plug your Twitter, your YouTube,
exciting.
plug whatever.
Oh, going back to a previous topic very briefly, in terms of projects that I'm working on, because you said the word Christmas, and that reminded me of something that I've got rumbling away, and it's so silly and stupid, because I love doing silly, stupid things, particularly, you know, when I did the like Bradley sings the theme tune.
Yes,
and then I did the Christmas song with Jackie Tyler. So, yeah, I've got something that is Christmas related. It'll be old but new, but not borrowed or blue. I have been putting it off a little bit, but now I can progress with it because I've been waiting for the Revolution of the Daleks trailer to come out. There's a hint there.
Oh, exciting!
So I need to knuckle down on that one and hopefully send a message to a person or two, and hopefully that'll be a little Christmas treat from me. I don't want to say any more because it just makes me giggle thinking about it, and I hope it will make other people giggle too. But yeah. There we go.
I'm excited to hear this.
Yeah. Now to promote me.
Let's talk all about you. Go on.
Like we haven't done that for the last 50 years already. Yes, obviously I have the YouTube channel. That is where I am probably most content-wise active. That is Dalekium. I think it might be PJM 25595. I can't keep track of these things anymore.
I think if you search Dalekium, it comes up.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
And obviously I'm on Twitter, where I don't really talk much about music or even my own stuff. I just like to post silly things sometimes. But I love talking to people on there. The dafter it is, the better. And obviously I have the Patreon page. If you really like my work, if you like what I'm doing, it means so much to me that people already are subscribed. I think last time I checked, that there's 27 people on there at the moment, being very generous with the money, which really means the world because, as I said earlier, it's transformed what I do, and I couldn't do it without people on Patreon. And if you want to download or even buy my stuff, I have the Bandcamp page, which is linked on the YouTube in all the videos. It should be easy to find. And again, that's Dalekium, or the more original stuff, that is under my actual name, which is Peter Miles.
I wanted to mention this as well because I just wanted to say that I was listening on YouTube to some of your original stuff as well on the Peter Miles page. It's great. It's consistently great.
Yay.
That's just your content. Really, really good. But yeah, that's it from us.
A big finish if you're listening. I'm here.
Yeah, he's here. Get this boy in Big Finish. Get him in. Get him in, please. I obviously we are on Twitter as well. Who Knew Podcast. Follow us on there for all the news. And hopefully, more guest announcements, things like that. We're on Instagram, whoknewdwpod. Similar sort of thing, really. And then you can listen to this and other episodes wherever you get your podcasts. There's a few episodes up by this point. And I don't really know what's going to be coming after this point, because I'm recording these a few weeks in advance. A little bit of timey-wimey action going on, but I'm hoping to plan some special things for Christmas. And obviously by the time this comes out, it'll be Christmas in like 4 days. So Merry Christmas to everybody at home.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Hope it's nice.
Yeah. Hope you have a great Christmas, and it's a goodbye from me, and of course goodbye from you, Peter. Yeah. I don't know why I did
I was very tempted to do goodbye from him and whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it.
That was
like a two Ronnies thing.
God,
yeah,
we really butchered that, didn't we?
Yes. Well, goodbye and Merry Christmas.
Yeah. That.
Yeah, that. That's a great ending. Thank you for listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes every week. And if you can leave us a review, it would really help us out. And a big thank you to the Sononauts for providing cover of the Doctor Who theme as the theme tune for the podcast.